cylinder.
Yeah, it's going to be for a lidded. You're working on these. A lidded bowl. They're bowls with lids.
Yeah,
Yep.
with lid.
For a project that she's working on. So same thing, really. All starts pretty similar. And I'm going to start with the shape wider than your finishing because I'm going to compress the bottom. This is the huge difference between a cylinder and a bowl, is that the inside's not round. We want a square corner. So I really hook my fingers here, and then I'm going to come back and compress the floor, trying to make it even thickness all the way across and to be parallel with this flat surface. The hard part of the cylinder is this bottom corner. There's always extra clay. And to prevent it from getting too wide too fast with the cylinder, I'm actually going to throw it moving up and in. I'm going to compress the top. So you're doing lids which have a flange. While the rim is still thick, I'm going to start making that spot for the lid now. So this time I am going to go in, I'm going to straighten it out a little bit. As I throw this, the flange is going to it's going to get bumped around some, but it's much better to do it at the beginning than later.
Why is that?
Because it starts to get, for me at least, I'm making this thinner and thinner, and I have to put downward pressure to make the flange. So I like to do it when I have more support in the walls. And also, as this is getting thinner, if I leave thick clay up here to make the flange later, there's just a lot of weight at the very top, like moving around. So the shape you want's pretty dramatic, right? So this time I'm going to come in and I'm going to compress across the bottom here pretty hard. And now I'm going to start moving out further. And I may have really made this too thin too fast. I've lost that here. I do. You're saying this wheel slow?
Yeah.
I throw pretty slow. Yeah.
I've been noticing as I'm making my bowls, I have to slow it down more and more as I pull up on the walls, otherwise it
I think throwing slow is really a good thing. I feel like production potters throw really, really fast, and I think that's why the wheels even go so fast. Also, they have like a lot of torque for really heavy bits of clay. Okay, I'm gonna push in again, trying to make that smaller. And right now my left hand's pushing out. And it's really getting very thin. You can see like every pull, just like compressing the rim when I'm throwing a bowl, like I'm rechecking this flange and kind of like keeping it in check.
How do you get the wall thin all the way to the top with the flange in the way?
You just try and come all the way underneath it right here. Like this is the new ending of my rim. The truth is that there's a little bit of clay underneath it here. And there's different kinds of, there's different ways of doing this. This is just the way that I usually show and do it. Or there's different types of flanges, I guess I should say. So it's still really, there's still extra clay at the bottom. So I'm gonna try and get that. I'm gonna do one more at the bottom and then I'm gonna just take the ribbon and shake this in. Press once more. I'm in a scenario where I really don't want it to get too much thinner at the top. But I think Takako wants this shape to be pretty dramatic, a pretty big difference between this circle and this circle. And there is right now, but in order to help that happen without having to stretch the top more, if I compress this in, it looks a lot wider. It's hard to see, but I can see it and I can feel it. Like it's thicker from here to here than here up. And I'm gonna show a little trick where I'm gonna trim off extra clay using this. So like a rule for myself that I have is when I'm throwing cylinders outside of like a teacup, which I just don't make very often, I don't want to trim them. So I'm not leaving extra clay anywhere to trim or anything like that. I'm trying to have it even the whole way.
You think when you're making like teacups and...
With the teacup, it's a little different because they're like a tiny bowl with a handle, you know, really. Or like, I don't know, maybe a cappuccino cup or
So
something.
with the bowls, we leave extra to trim. What are you saying, you don't leave extra to trim?
I don't leave extra, yeah.
Well, on like bowls and stuff?
Only on a bowl, really,
So
or a
anything else
lid.
you're throwing, you try not to...
Yeah, I don't want to turn it over and trim it. I mean, there are certain things, if you're making like a really dramatic vase or something, or you just want a foot on the form, then you need to. But like, the big difference for me between a bowl and a cylinder is a bowl is square on the inside, the opposite. A cylinder is square on the inside, and a bowl is round. And if the pot needs to be even, if it was completely round, it would topple around. It would just bounce. And so you have a foot to hold it in place. A cylinder is flat on the bottom, so there is no toppling. So I just try and use all the material.
So then when you're making something, you wouldn't put a foot on it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just leave it flat bottom.
Yes. And actually, I'll cut this one in half so we can look at it. So now I'm going to take this and try and do a little bit of refining for where I don't think that this is quite the shape you want. I'm trying to push in a little bit. And the rib's a useful tool because it also provides compression.
What does compression do? Why is that important?
It helps it stand up. So when it's thin, it might want to start to fall, but if you are able to compress it and you don't add too much water,
So if we have trouble with our bowls staying
can compress,
stable,
yeah.
compressing with the rib can actually help our bowls to stay more
Yep.
upright.
Yep. And this clay I'm using has some sand and stuff in it too. Is that kind of the shape you're thinking? Not quite.
Kind of.
Kind
yes.
of more wide and shorter.
Yeah, but it helps me a lot.
Yeah.
The idea.
I think for that, for yours, I would start actually throwing it wider sooner. I started too late.
Okay.
Yeah, I started too late, so it's just getting really, really thin. Here. And I've ran into
So
this.
not only you pushing the edge out, the beam outside, you also
Pushing
push
this in.
the bottom.
Yeah. And I pretty much this is one of the issues with this is like the clay's got so thin I've like almost lost my flange here. So I'm gonna try. Is that wooden rib underneath here?
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes, I try not to use this too much, but sometimes this is like a good thing. So then that lid can go on top. See how it's still thick down here. I should have gotten this thinner, and see how thin it started getting at the top. So if I was going to throw it again, I would throw it wider, faster actually. Yeah, and know that you can compress the bottom too, because I started like this big, you
So
know.
even wider.
No, well, not wider than I started. But I started here, and then I was able to compress all the way, and then started that way too.
But you put in later. You make it. the outside wider
Yeah.
than press.
Yeah, so it's like up, out a little bit, then in and out, in and out.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a little bit of a tricky,
Yeah, it's very
tricky,
hard.
especially small.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. Yeah.